This is a long story, but I will try to make it short and to the point. Years ago, we moved out of state to a townhouse in a really crappy area that we were not familiar with. Our neighbor seemed a bit off, and as time went on, he was always complaining about little things. We tried our best to befriend him and his relatives, but he just had a terrible temper. He and his wife had a huge fight one day, and his wife asked my wife if she could get a ride to her mother's house so her and the baby could get away for a little bit. Her husband later found out about this and lost it, thinking that my wife was trying to help her kidnap the child. All she did was give her a ride so she could get away from her a-hole husband. He blamed my wife on the entire event and subsequently got a baseball bat and began trying to break down our door. It was a tense moment. I had never had to pull a gun on anyone before, and at the time I rarely carried one. But I just happened to have my Glock 19 in the glove box as I had went shooting earlier that day. I got my gun and instructed him to back off, and he did some, but he was still very agitated and aggressive. I am glad I did not have to shoot him, though if the police had not shown up as quickly as they did, I may have had to. We moved out a week later. I was driving to work in a pretty bad snowstorm. I am a truck driver myself, but I was in an SUV at the time. So here comes an incompetent Swift driver pulling out of a business directly in front of me. If it was dry out, he probably would have made it, but my guess is he was new based on what happened next. He loses all of his traction and slides into a fence blocking the entire road. I brake, sliding about 30 feet on the slick road, and come to a stop, just barely avoiding his tandems. I am pissed off because he should have known better than to try to rush it in the snow. I honk at him and he loses it. He jumps out of his truck with a roofing hammer and advances towards me, screaming that he's going to kill me. What the hell, I think. By this time he is halfway there when I pull out my FNP9 and point it at him. I told him to back off, get in his truck, or get shot. As soon as he realizes that I actually had a gun out, he immediately dropped the hammer, turned around, and got back in his truck. It still took him 5 minutes to get his rig off the fence that he slid into. Here's a hint to travelers in the States. Certain places are highly armed and have stand-your-ground laws. Try not to be a tough guy when you screw up. It might not end very well.
If you have an SHTF story that you'd like to share, please email me at reallifeshtf@gmail.com.